Hello again, welcome back to Zestology. I'm Tony Wrighton. It's the podcast all about energy and vitality. And I'm walking along a road fairly close to the river. I mean, it's not the most scenic setting that I've ever recorded a podcast in, but it does the job, if you know what I mean. I was going to be down here yesterday recording a podcast with Dr. Simpson, but it was a typical London day, a little bit damp and dank and rather miserly, and we sat in my living room instead and recorded a podcast. And as always with Dr. Simpson, it's a wide-ranging chat covering all sorts of different topics. This week on Zestology, talking about sweating toxins out of your feet, meditation, raising your heart rate variability scores, amber necklaces, trusting your instincts, and plenty more. So I hope you enjoy that. You will hear a couple of interruptions that I really enjoyed because the baby was only born 8 or 9 weeks ago and he wanted to make an appearance on the podcast. So a couple of little interruptions from the boy on the podcast coming up, but that's all right. I enjoyed it anyway. It didn't last for very long. And thanks for listening to Zestology. So I'll keep this fairly short today. As always, plenty to discuss with Dr. Stephen Simpson. And here he is on Zestology, Dr. Stephen Simpson. Tell me about these magic foot pads that you've been wearing.
Oh, you liked that story, didn't you?
Oh, it's amazing.
Well, I've only been using these foot pads for a few days, and the idea, they're called anti-toxin foot pads, and the idea is that there's all kinds of different vegetables and stuff, and it comes in like a sachet, and you tape it to the sole of your foot and to both feet, and you sleep with these pads on, and in the morning you peel the pads off. And I'm not joking, the first time I did it, I thought, what on earth has gone wrong here? It's like black tar. It's very sticky, and it's very black, pure black. And according to the literature, these are the toxins being drawn out of your body. Now, don't ask me the science behind that. There may not be any. But if you go to Amazon or any other sites and put in, anti-toxin foot pads, you'll see hundreds of reviews of people who, just swear by them.
So they're white pads. I just had a Google before we started talking. It looks like it's all natural ingredient.
I think it is.
It's like essential oils or something. And you tape it to your foot. So basically it gets hot, presumably, and your feet sweat at night.
Do they?
Well, I was trying to think how it works.
I don't know how it works, Tony. But
it's black when you take it off in the morning.
It is black.
With toxin.
That's what they say it is. It's black with something.
How extraordinary. And hundreds of good reviews on Amazon.
Yes, I know you saw that, didn't you?
And you said you've been doing it for a few days. Mm-hmm. How do you feel on it?
I feel pretty good, but then normally I do anyway. But if I've noticed one thing, then, certainly the night before last, I had a wonderful sleep. Because I'm one of these people, I get off to sleep easily, but then, 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the morning, I'm awake, and then I'll start thinking about things and sometimes find it hard to go back. But anyway, so I've had, so far, I've had one great night's sleep on it.
Wow.
So, I'll keep you updated, but I'm a bit of a junkie for these things. I think you are as well. You're probably a bit more analytical than me, but I take the view, I'll try anything once. But if I see things that have had really good reviews, I think, well, there's got to be something here, so I'll try it.
Do they smell strong?
They don't really smell of anything. No.
I would have thought that they'd smell strongly. I don't know, tea tree oil or something like that.
No, they don't.
How did you find out about these?
Well, I'm slightly going to change the story just to preserve the anonymity. But let's say that I was a member of a club, and there was some grumpy old man there who has always ignored me. You know how men particularly can get grumpy when they get a bit older. Unlike me, I just become more mellow. And I thought, well, I don't know what his problem is. But we went to a lunch, and he was there, and I thought, oh gosh, this is going to be a long, it's going to feel like a long lunch, this one. But he was the life and soul. And
so he's normally grumpy.
He's normally grumpy. And people said, "Don't take this personally. He's like this with everybody."
Yes,
he's just one of these sort of grumpy or quiet people.
Yeah,
self-contained. Anyway, this person, without being domineering, was the life and soul of the lunch. And he went to the bathroom and somebody said, "Do you notice how different he is? Who's going to ask him?" So somebody said, "You're in good form. Are you doing anything different? Are you taking any magic pills from the doctor or anything?" He said, "No, but the last couple of months I have been doing something different." And he's been using these Footpads. And so somebody said, "Well, how does it make you feel?" And he said, "It makes me feel happy." He said, can't explain why, but I've never felt as happy as this. And all these people who I hardly know them, these people said, "Well, you're certainly very different."
Yeah.
And as soon as I heard that story, I went straight, got onto Amazon and ordered some. They don't cost an arm and a leg for a Footpad. And I'm just trying them out, and I'll report back. Like I say, I've only been doing it for a few days, but the reviews are all there. And I'm certainly going to try it for at least a couple of weeks.
I just looked it up online before we started recording, and it said one of the things is, in the morning, the toxins that come out are so strong, don't touch them. That might be great marketing speak.
It could be.
But don't touch the black bit on the pads in the morning.
Yeah. Well, when you look at it, I can assure you wouldn't want to. But you probably would put your fingers straight in.
Sure, it's not just you.
No, it's not me. It's definitely not me. Everybody talks about the black gungy stuff.
I've never heard of that before,
No.
but I think that you have probably increased their sales massively in the last few minutes, because everyone will be trying it.
Well, I'd better say I'm not paid to endorse this. I'm just, giving you the feedback.
Are they cheap?
I think a pack, which lasts about 10 days, is about £12.
Yeah.
So it's affordable.
Yeah. That is fascinating.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's been a few days, but you're feeling pretty good at the moment. Is Caroline using them as well?
She is indeed, yeah, and she feels pretty good as well.
Great.
Yeah.
So what else are you doing? Obviously, meditation we've spoken about quite a bit before.
Yeah.
My issue with meditation at the moment is my son, who is upstairs, and it sounds like he's slightly stirring at the moment, but hopefully he's okay. There's just a lot less time for meditation, and if you try, I suppose, they do say that you shouldn't meditate in the rose garden, you should meditate in the storm. But it is quite hard to meditate if you're in one room and you can hear him in the other room crying. Even if my partner, Faith, is looking after him, it's still kind of stressful. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. If I had $1 for every time I've been told stories like that, of reasons why people drop meditation, I'd be a very rich man.
Yeah.
So I know. Stan is 10 weeks old.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So definitely a small baby takes a lot of looking after for the couple. Yeah.
And when you had babies, you weren't doing such a formal meditation practice, were you?
No, I wasn't.
So
I was meditating, but I'd do it sort of ad hoc. And some days I wouldn't bother.
Yeah.
But latterly, for the last perhaps 12 years, I make a point of meditating pretty much every day, and pretty much it's the first thing I do.
Yeah.
So, but I'm lucky. My structure allows me to do that. More difficult for you, and more difficult for most people who are juggling so many balls at the moment. But what I would say is that there's always 5 minutes in a day, and meditation doesn't have to be an hour in deep trance. Even just 5 minutes, just closing your eyes, listening to your chill music or whatever you do, and just letting your mind drift. There's all kinds of different techniques that people use, but 5 or 10 minutes is enough. In fact, my meditation program, because I've got a machine that I use on my computer, program on my computer, it's 8 minutes exactly.
Is it? Yeah. I'm finding at the moment, excuse me, on the tube, it's quite a good time, because I don't have any other commitments.
Yeah. And
yesterday we were in Somerset and I just went for a walk for 10 minutes.
Yeah.
But I think even walking meditation, being on the tube, it's just not quite as good as being at home or just being somewhere where you can be quiet for 10 minutes. I do prefer that. But there's definitely a value to different types of meditation as well.
Yeah. Well, there are. And, another good place I've found to meditate, churches. Because they're normally quiet, there's normally somewhere you can sit and close your eyes and nobody's going to bother you. And I particularly like going to St. Paul's, which is walking distance from where I live, and there's a chapel to the side of the main bit of the church, and you can go in there. Anybody can go in there, it's free. And remember that these churches weren't built on those sites just by chance because a bit of free land came up. Pretty much every time archaeologists dig underneath the foundations, they find that these iconic churches have been built on Roman temples, and when they dig underneath the Roman temples, they'll find they're Druid temples. So for some reason, people through the ages have thought that there's something specific about these locations.
Yeah, I like the way you always introduce a hippie element to proceedings. And,
I probably do, because you see, these are the things that fascinate me. I mean, I think the great thing about the time we live in now is there's no need for us to stop learning. I mean, the internet has brought us some bad stuff, but it's brought us so much good things. I mean, anybody now can research anything and ask any question and find some kind of an answer. The hard thing, just like these footpads, is trying to sort out, what are the real gems and what is just, spurious or even fake. So, we've got to be careful about that. But, I mean, certainly, getting back to the churches and stuff, I mean, that's not disputed.
Well, there's something about the energy of a place, isn't there? And obviously, another word for prayer is just another form of meditation, isn't it?
It is. It is indeed. It's the same thing.
Yeah. And you not just churches, but where you go in somewhere that there's a good energy. And obviously a lot of churches are places where there's been a lot of meditation or prayer that's taken place.
Yeah.
We've just been to look at our new house that we're buying around the corner, which is currently a building site.
Yeah.
And we felt the former owners they left it in a bit of a haphazard fashion, and it wasn't the most straightforward of sales. And we quite like a good energy. When we sold ours, we kind of cleaned it really nicely and, gave it a few tips for the area and that kind of thing. And they didn't really do the same with this one. So talking about the energy of a place, Faith has got some smudge stick that she's going to wave around the place a bit, and that's apparently going to clear the energy. I don't know how, but I'm up for it.
Yeah, I've heard of that. Yeah. Smudging.
But there is an energy to the place, isn't there?
There is.
I suppose that's apparently one way of clearing it.
Yeah.
And in terms of your meditation, you like to track, don't you?
I do.
So it's an 8-minute program.
Yeah.
And you plug into the heart rate variability monitors at the same time.
I do. I have one of these little sensors that fits over your finger. If you see programs about hospital, they always put this little thing on your finger, and it measures your pulse. It can measure your blood pressure. It can measure your oxygen saturation.
Can it? Can it measure that as well?
This one that I haven't got, it doesn't do that.
Yeah.
But it certainly measures my pulse and my heart rate variability. Yeah. And heart rate variability is something that you and your previous guests have talked about a lot. It seems to be very important. That it's a very good predictor of our state of health. And health is a balance of mind and body. So it's not just physical, it's your mind. That's another reason why meditation is so important. I mean, people who go to the gym and get really fit, they're missing out on the big picture. If they put some of that time into meditation or some kind of mind practice as well, they would feel even better.
Yeah, I mean, the heart rate variability is weird, isn't it? Because we have gone over it before, but just to briefly explain it, it's the more the variation in the gaps between the heartbeats, the better it is for your heart rate variability scores and the better it is for your overall health. So you would think that if you've got a very uniform metronomic heartbeat, that's very good for your health, but actually it's the opposite. The reason being that if you're attacked by the lion, you want your heart rate or your heartbeat to be very used from going from 50 beats a minute to 130 beats a minute and be able to deal with the variations that sudden stress causes.
Yeah.
That's heart rate variability, right?
It is. And, one of the first things you learn as a medical student is how to take the pulse. And you will learn with experience that there are about 16 different types of pulses.
Yeah.
If you're a Chinese doctor or trained in Chinese medicine, there's probably 160. I don't know, but they attach great importance to it. And you were talking about a metronomic pulse. Well, in the normal person, physiologically, it will not be metronomic because the pulse changes whether we breathe in or we breathe out. I mean, when we're breathing in, we're kind of the pressure in our chest is rising, and that slightly slows the heart. And when we breathe out, it's different. So that is normal, and so that would be a normal element of heart rate variability. And the more sort of elasticity there is between when it goes faster and slower, that's the higher heart rate variability, and that's the sign that you're in pretty good shape, according to the experts.
Yeah. No, I think that's pretty widely acknowledged, isn't it?
Yeah.
And I had my heart rate taken, my pulse just taken as part of an Ayurvedic consultation on this podcast a few weeks ago with Dr. Shijo Matthew, who he's a kind of expert. He helped Jasmine Hemsley with her book on Ayurveda. And he took my pulse and he was like, I think you need to stop drinking coffee. I don't know, I think I'd had a bulletproof coffee just beforehand.
Well, that would do it.
I think he said there was too much fire in my system and not enough air or something like that.
Yeah.
But with you, so your heart rate, the thing about HRV, heart rate variability, is you can improve it.
Yeah.
With meditation, with meditative practices, you can make it better. And with stress, you can make it worse. And you found your heart rate variability scores have got better recently.
Yeah. I mean, it sounds very geeky. Normally I don't talk like this, but I know you do a lot more tracking than I do. But I've been using this particular program for about 8 years now.
Yeah.
And the scores.
What program is it?
It's called HeartMath. I mean,
HeartMath.
HeartMath.
Yeah.
They've got a great website, by the way. Lots of free stuff. So well worth checking that out. But my scores. I'm hitting pretty much personal bests almost every time. I mean, what's changed is the consistency. Some day before, I'd have a good day and a bad day. It was up and down. But now, pretty much every day is pretty good. So when I've done that in the morning, it's probably a bit of a placebo effect or something, but it helps make me feel good about the day. I mean, I'm in a good shape to tackle whatever the world throws at me then.
Yeah, I mean that shouldn't be the case, should it? This Oura ring, if it tells me I've had a great sleep, I'm like brilliant. Yeah. If it tells me I've had a crap sleep, even if I feel like I've had a good sleep, I'm a bit disappointed.
Yeah,
so you shouldn't let it ruin your day.
No, we shouldn't, and I definitely agree with that. And again, sometimes I don't sleep very well, as I mentioned earlier, but that doesn't seem to affect my scores. So I think it's probably sometimes you don't need to sleep solidly for 8 hours, as long as you're sort of lying in bed and you've got your eyes closed, and it doesn't necessarily mean you're going to be really tired all the next day.
What do you put down? You put your HRV increase and your consistency down to? It's probably too early to put it down to the Footpads, isn't it?
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah. Well, the difficult thing is because you and I, we're both always experimenting with our diet and with supplements and stuff like that. We're trying to live the healthiest life we can. So what if we were scientists, we would change one thing at a time and measure the difference. But we're not doing it like that. So it could be a number of things, but certainly I'm really conscious of diet, and I pretty much don't eat any processed food. I haven't eaten meat for more than 30 years now, and it's not that so much that meat is bad for you. I don't think that it is. I mean, it's part of how we evolved to digest meat. But it's also, you don't know what chemicals those animals have had. I mean, they even, they're given antibiotics, a lot more than they probably should be. They're given steroids sometimes, and they're even given drugs sometimes before they go to slaughter, to make the muscles relax. So you're getting muscle relaxants. So there's so much contamination it's possible to get into the food chain, and anything you can do to try and just clean it up a little bit I think is probably going to help. So there's the diet side.
And by the way, this is the big problem with when they studies show that, for example, people who eat a lot of red meat die from heart disease more. They don't differentiate between the types of meat that these people are eating. It's very different eating a burger from a fast food chain to buying some Eversfield burgers that is just 100% grass-fed meat that has been lovingly reared. Yeah,
and as you know, and you're going to know even more now you have a family, is that to eat healthily, it does cost. You'd have to pay for good stuff.
Talking of which, pause there. I'm just going to... It sounds like it's all kicking off upstairs, so I just want to see if they want to come down. 1 second, I'm just going to pause. It's fine, apparently. It's all under control.
Good.
So it might be the diet.
Yeah, so it could be the diet. I mean, the other thing that's relatively new in my life, for about the last 6 or 7 months, I've got this bioresonance machine, which I have in my studio, and I always sit in front of this machine for 20 minutes every day. And the theory is that this machine produces scalar waves which pass through your body, and they energize the mitochondria, which are the powerhouses of our cells.
And you spoke about this on a previous podcast,
I did,
yeah. Yeah, and you're still using it.
I'm still using it.
Right.
So I'm still feeling pretty good. And as I laughingly mentioned to you earlier on, I'm starting to grow a little bit of hair on my head back again.
Right.
I think I am.
I can see it. Yeah. So how long has there not been much hair there?
Years.
Yeah.
Years. More years than I care to remember. And so I'm...
That is interesting.
Yeah, I'm persisting with that. And the other thing is that I think probably as a result of talking to you, I've been doing this sort of modified intermittent fasting for a couple of years now, probably. And I didn't think I was overweight before, but looking back, I obviously did need to lose a few pounds. Well, that weight has dropped off me. And I'm not a person who would ever do dieting. I mean, I hate to be hungry. I don't like that feeling. But, I've cut out my breakfast, which was a stretch, because, that used to be my favourite meal. But you get used to it. And now I don't miss it at all. And
my guess is that it really might be a big thing with the HRV, the heart rate variability.
You think so?
Yeah, I do actually, yeah. I think there's so many benefits to just cutting out a meal a day, letting your digestion recover, letting your body and your stomach heal, flushing any toxins out of the system.
Yeah.
We were just in a kind of posh hotel for the last... Posh pub, rather than hotel, for the last couple of days. And they... Obviously, breakfast was included. It's like a B&B, basically. And so we had a really big breakfast the last couple of days and actually slept really well last night.
Yeah.
And on the drive home, felt so tired. I was trying to think why. And I don't think it was because I slept badly last night. I think it's probably because of a big, heavy breakfast in my stomach.
Could be. Could be.
Yeah, because it's actually very energising when you don't eat, weirdly.
Yeah. And you had a guest on your show about a year ago he runs this clinic where they fast for long periods of time.
Yeah.
I listened to that when I was in Australia, actually. I was on a long car drive, and that really was extreme.
He was pretty full on, wasn't he?
He was full on.
Lauren Lockman.
Yeah. But I think definitely... if you're going to go on a fast like that, definitely there should be medical supervision there. And
Did the doctor and you shudder a little bit at that
A little.
Hopefully I asked him some tough questions because I couldn't believe... I mean, people were going there and not eating for 5 weeks, were they?
That's true.
Yeah. I think his longest was 4 months, and you just think, hopefully there is some kind of supervision going on.
And, anybody who's listening, I do not advocate that. But there are plenty of people who do this 5-2 diet. I've never done it, but where they fast for 2 days.
Yeah.
And as long as you don't have any sort of concurrent illness or anything, people swear by that.
Yeah.
But anyway,
Have you done any 24-hour fasts or longer?
No, I haven't.
We've done a couple.
How's it feel?
Felt pretty good, actually. I mean, it was quite... I think the theory is you get less hungry the more you go, but I was starving by the end of it.
I bet you would be.
But if you start at... And the theory is that the magic really starts to happen after about 17 hours.
Yeah.
So if you start at 6 p.m...
Yeah.
and do intermittent fast anyway. You eat your evening meal slightly earlier the night before, and then you just miss out breakfast and lunch, and then have a big meal the next evening.
Yeah, I mean, I've been tempted to do it, and I will get round to it. It's a sort of a mind thing that's stopping me.
So you're not quite sure what has contributed to the heart rate?
No, so I haven't really given you an answer. All I've said is that I would say to anybody, and I try and follow this advice myself. Just use your intuition and be prepared to make changes and study the literature. There is some good research out there. I mean, we now know the biggest public health problem in the Western world, at least, is obesity. Now, who would have thought that a generation ago? And so that's something that we all need to wake up to. And it's not because necessarily I think people are eating too much or because they're eating when they don't need to. I think a lot of it has got to do with the quality that we're getting.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah.
It's just rank, the quality of some of the food that we're served up. And I think it's really interesting because it's not actually very very high on the list of most people's priorities.
No.
We've tried to find organic... Oh, here he is. making his appearance on the podcast for the first time. We've tried to find grass-fed, natural restaurants. Oh, poor boy. Let's pause the podcast for a second, Molly. Desperate to do a poo.
Probably a good time.
Where were we? It's very distracting. We talk about we tried to find natural, organic, grass-fed restaurants in this country, in London. And you think in London, but there's very few restaurants. There's lots that say they're vegan or vegetarian. There's lots that say it's kind of plant-based or healthy. There's very few restaurants that say, yeah, we have organic ingredients, which I'm amazed by. You'd think it'd be a priority for more people, but to me, that's almost the most important piece of the puzzle.
Yeah.
So you can't find it. I mean, I think if you go to say LA, you can find it. You can find a lot more.
Yeah.
But here, it's a real struggle.
Yes, that is surprising. Yeah.
And when you're trying lots of different things at once, it is hard to tell, isn't it? However much you track, really what you're supposed to do is change one thing at once.
Yeah.
But if for example, I'm doing this low histamine diet at the moment, I was just telling you that really has helped with my HRV levels.
That is really interesting.
Yeah. I know you're interested in that, and it's.
Are you going to share some details with us? Or?
Yeah, I mean, I've mentioned it a few times, but just in terms of, I'd heard quite a lot about the impact of a high histamine diet and how it could affect your gut and affect your health and everything else and make you kind of a bit brain foggy. So I thought, I've tried everything else, I'll try this one as well, and had a massive result straight away. My heart rate's plummeted overnight, and I can tell that because I wear the Oura ring. Unfortunately, I had to cut out the best things: chocolate, avocado, leftovers. You can't really have leftovers. What else?
Doesn't leave much for me.
Yeah, no. I mean, it's because it's nice to do a big cook up, and then you can eat the leftovers the next day. You can't have that. But as a result, I'm feeling really good, and the heart rate variability has gone up a lot. Now, there's quite a few other things going on. Is it the antihistamine diet? Is it the antihistamine supplements that I've been taking? Have you ever looked into quercetin?
No.
No, it's a natural supplement. It's I don't know where it comes from, but I know it's completely natural. So I've been taking that. Been taking various other stuff. I've also been taking over-the-counter loratadine as well, which is just a bog-standard supplement. And at the moment, we're recording this slap bang in the middle of hay fever season. I'm feeling good.
I was going to ask you about that because, the listeners will have probably come across histamine because if you have hay fever, it's something that the doctor might prescribe a antihistamine spray or something.
Yeah. Because
histamine is the chemical that mediates the inflammatory response.
Yeah.
So it would figure with what you've been saying. So I was going to ask you, is your hay fever any better this year? And, so it doesn't surprise me.
It is better at the moment, but I mean, I'm taking loads of stuff. I'm taking colostrum tablets in the morning. I'm taking biohacks.
Yeah.
Have you ever heard of that?
No.
It's French maritime pine bark. So it's completely made out of tree.
Yeah.
And they've done studies on this French maritime pine bark, and they found that, I did mention this in another podcast, but it doesn't matter. They found that it is as or more effective than over-the-counter histamine medication at reducing people's allergy symptoms. And it's just made out of a tree. Isn't that amazing?
Well, so many things come from the trees and even the bark of tree. I'll tell you a little anecdotal story here. I started my international career. I was working in Angola in a province called Cabinda. And of course, there were very, very few expatriates there, not least because the civil war was raging there. And the locals, there was a big tree called the chiquala tree. And they used to get the bark and make some tea or something like that. And to be polite, let's describe it as quite a potent male aphrodisiac. And in Portugal, at least, last time I looked in the pharmacies, you can buy it. So I don't know whether it's available in this country. I'm not saying that I would recommend it because I've heard reports that it can raise blood pressure and stuff like that. But I mean that was just, I'm giving you an illustration of how people through the centuries have found these special qualities associated with trees and even the bark.
Well, I agree. I mean, this is not a podcast that tends to focus on Viagra very much. But,
no.
when we decided to try for a baby, we read Dave Asprey's Better Baby book, and there are loads of natural supplements you can take to increase your sperm count and all sorts of things. I was getting it all down, and there are some fairly pleasant side effects, I can tell you. So, and that's from the natural world. So why bother with chemicals when you could go natural? Yeah,
sounds good to me.
Not take it anymore. Only sometimes.
Well, probably one baby's probably enough. It's put you off for a little while.
Yeah, it might just hold fire for a little bit, I think. So yeah, it is hard to tell, isn't it? And so there's lots of stuff going into that with the antihistamine, but it is also fascinating to me, and it feels like it's the most dramatic change in my health over a very long time. Having had a dodgy time. I mean, one day you and I went out a few years ago, and I felt awful. I could barely come. We were going to the cricket, weren't we? It was only probably 2 or 3 years ago.
Yeah.
And I'd been drinking all day at the cricket the day before, so I hardly have any excuse.
Yeah.
But I'd been drinking all day, went home, felt just so bad. It felt like I was going to explode. I just felt so awful. But I was like, I can't let Steve down, because we planned this day at the cricket for ages, hadn't we?
Certainly had.
And I mentioned all the things earlier on that are the biggest culprits for a histamine kind of response. The biggest of them all is red wine. And of course I was drinking that the previous day.
Yeah.
So I just wonder if that had, I haven't had anything like that in ages since I've been doing this.
Well, I've just noticed something while you were talking. Your face colour is different.
Is it?
It looks, I'm not joking, I've only just noticed. It looks very healthy. And there are no bags under your eyes, and you've got every reason to look pretty tired, but you don't. You look, blooming with health.
That's nice.
Yeah,
that's nice to know. Yeah. I mean, I do feel great.
Yeah, because I know what problems you've had with your gut.
Yeah.
So it's great that you're getting a handle around that.
And that gut thing, I don't want to bang on about it too much, but it was every once in a while for the last 20 years, and you just one day you'll wake up, feel terrible, not work it out why. Since the antihistamine diet or the low histamine diet, I'm feeling okay, and that's not happened. So we'll see how it goes. So that's a few months now.
See how it goes.
Yeah. And quercetin is one of the antihistamine supplements that I've been taking. Now, not got that long left, but I wanted to ask you, what is that round your neck?
Well, it's funny you should ask me that, because we were just talking about trees a moment ago.
Yes.
And this is... it's a resin. It's called amber resin, and that's the colour of it. So it's a yellowish sort of colour.
Yeah.
And this comes from the resin of trees from I think it's the Cretaceous period or the Jurassic period. Now, those of you who have remember the movie Jurassic Park, that was where from amber, you see inside this amber there's some little sort of black bits, and they are bits of wood or fern or plant or something, and sometimes you can find insects in these I was going to call them crystals. They're not really crystals, but mine's hanging on a necklace. So this is about 150 million years old. And in theory, you would be able to extract the DNA from whatever sort of organic material there's in here. And that's what Jurassic Park was. They got DNA for dinosaurs and were able to breed them.
Yes.
So I think that's a bit far-fetched, but scientifically it's not impossible by a long way. Anyway, I like having something around me that...
So you have a Jurassic stone around your neck.
150 million years old. I mean, when you think about that, and you think about, the little things you're worrying about from day to day, it just has a calming effect. To think, okay, I mean, what are we? We're just on this planet, a speck of time.
Is there something with amber that is supposed to be particularly significant as well?
Well, through the ages, it's always considered to be very healing.
Yeah.
So, as the Duke of Wellington said, 10,000 foot soldiers are never wrong. So when a lot of people, believe in something, and a lot of people put reviews on Amazon or something, I'm always going to be interested in it.
Yeah.
And as long as I can be pretty sure it's not going to do me any harm, I'll pretty much try anything.
Yeah, and so who knows? It might be that's helping your heart rate variability.
It could be.
It really might be.
Might be, yeah.
And the logical part of me always struggles with that a bit more.
I know,
he's got
Tony,
a stone round his neck.
You've got to get over this, Tony.
Yeah, but it's good to be sceptical as well, isn't it? I'm sceptical until I'm not, if you know what I mean.
All right.
Would you? I mean, do you notice the difference if you take it off or not?
Never take it off.
No. Yeah. Have you experimented with any other stones?
Yeah, I have. I like stones. I mean, I think they're beautiful. I mean, my personal preferences, I like amethyst. I like the blue lapis. I like rose quartz. I like white quartz.
Yeah. You actually gave me something on a previous podcast recording.
Did I?
Which I still have in my pocket of one of my pairs of trousers. It's black.
Oh,
a black bit of stone. What was that?
That is chungite.
Okay.
Chungite, again, that's sort of very prehistoric. And when I worked in Kazakhstan in the oil field, we used to find a lot of black stones like this. And I was told then that this was, extruded from a deep level and was actually, the resin or the tar from which petroleum comes from. And yeah, people think that that's got healing properties, chungite, so you can buy that now, and people make necklaces and pendants and stuff out of it. So did you notice any difference having that in your pocket?
No, did you say it's quite hard?
Yeah, very hard.
Yeah, no, it felt nice to touch. So that I noticed that.
Yeah.
I don't think I noticed anything else.
They're things of beauty.
Yeah.
I mean, whether we think they have magic properties or not doesn't matter. I mean, they're just very beautiful and they're very old. People, of course, pay fortunes for gemstones, don't they?
Yeah.
Diamonds is, the most obvious example.
Now, before we finish, obviously, I always ask for one book recommendation and one kind of tip. What have you been reading that has caught your eye recently?
Well, I knew this question was coming this time. Well, I only thought of it just before we started the show. And I have to say, well, I haven't got one. But in the past, I can sort of half answer the question. Catch-22 was probably my favourite book of all time.
Yeah.
Joseph Heller. And I was watching TV the other day, and it's going to be serialised on Channel 4.
Is it?
And it's directed by that famous actor everybody knows, who's got the sunglasses, the Ravens, and drinks the coffee.
George Clooney?
George Clooney.
I mean, we all know what you mean.
Sorry, Mr. Clooney. I'm the only person on the planet who doesn't know his name. Right. Yeah, George Clooney. So that, and I'm assuming he's going to be acting in it as well.
Catch-22. I read that in the last year.
Did you?
Yeah.
Have you read it before?
No, I haven't. It's very funny at times, isn't it? Well, very dark and very funny.
It is. It's dark and very funny. And I have probably read that book 30 times and I still get something from it.
Right.
So, yeah, interesting.
Okay, that's a good one. And then what about one tip? I mean, you've come up with a few already. Is it wearing an amber Jurassic necklace?
Well, it might be. What I would say to people is trust your intuition. Because our default state is to know all this stuff. A lot of evolution, or if you believe in the creation theory, a lot of creation has gone into our bodies to make them real miracles. And because we live in them all the time, we take them all for granted. But it's a miraculous piece of precision engineering. And I think we should trust our bodies and our brains more. Now more than ever before, we believe that we're in control of stuff, and I think people try and over-control too many things. So what I would say to people, if possible, and I have to struggle with this piece of advice myself because I'm just like everybody else, is try not to overthink things, but be more brave, have more trust in your intuition, and if something sounds right, if it feels right, if it smells right, if it's not going to do you any harm, why not go for it?
Yeah. And that's actually really interesting you say that, because I was just saying to Faith recently, I've been working on trusting my instincts more, because I'm so left brain and logical. But actually, when my instincts and the reverse of what you just said, if something doesn't feel right, or doesn't look right, or doesn't sound right, or seem right, then don't do it.
Yeah. And I work with some of the top professional poker players in the world, and we talk about intuition a lot.
Yeah.
And they will generally get in touch with me when they've lost a big hand, and I'll always say, "What was your first thought?" And they'll say something like, "My first thought was the guy opposite me. He hasn't got much. He's bluffing me." And then, "What did you do? What was your last thought?" I thought. And it'll be like, he's got 2 aces. He's going to beat me. And so I folded my hand. And I'll always say, your first thought is your best thought. And I said this I did a TEDx talk last year, and I think I said that in my TEDx talk. And afterwards, a school teacher came up to me and he said, you were so much, it resonated so strongly when you talked about intuition. He said, because I'm a teacher and I have to invigilate exams, it's all multiple choice. And he said, I have to walk around looking at the kids, and their pencil is always often hovering over the right answer, and they're almost about to tick that box, and then they move it and they tick the wrong box. Because there they are, the intuition was saying, yes, this is the right answer, because they've heard it in a class, it's in that memory bank somewhere hidden deep down. And he said, I tell them afterwards, and they say, oh, teacher, why didn't you tell me? He said, I'm not allowed to do that.
Thanks, Steve, and thank you for listening. I hope you have a zesty week, trusting your intuition, trusting your instincts, living in the moment, and having a great week. Have a good one, and I'll see you next time. And just before you go, if you'd like to sign up to the 3 Zesty Things newsletter, there's plenty more hacks coming your way every Monday morning in your inbox. I had a bit of a hiatus, a couple of months off, while the baby was born, but now he's back, and the 3 Zesty Things newsletter is back as well. So you can head to TonyWrighton.com, sign up the newsletter, and you'll be getting that every Monday morning. And I'll see you next time.